All right, it's the Tribune podcast once more. John McAtee here with Eamon McFadden and Declan Kerr, who's back with us once more, and we're looking at the wider picture and the possibility of power cuts across the winters, and that's going to go on for 5 years. Could you ever have imagined that happening in Ireland? Or is it all to do with global warming and the measures that we're not taking?
It's unbelievable, just the kind of what we're hearing now and what the potential for disruption is if it all comes to pass.
You know something, we're not hearing the half of it really. We're simply just not hearing it.
It's come out very quickly in some senses, hasn't it?
It just didn't happen that quickly. Like, those things are known in advance.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know, they're bringing 2 gas generators back into the grid after the next couple of weeks, which apparently might resolve most of the problems. But we'll have to wait and see, because electricity is going to get so expensive. Can we actually afford it? What else can we use instead of electricity?
Keep the lights on.
To keep the lights on, can we? Well, I've got a generator at home, but it might be actually less expensive to run the generator.
Be a fuel shortage then, like England.
Are we going to get that? I don't think we're going to get fuel shortages. Apparently, we don't have issues with looking after the drivers. In Britain, is short 65,000 drivers, and they're blaming Boris Johnson. Now, I don't think he has very much to do with it, quite honestly.
Yeah.
It's just that the bad conditions, bad pay, and they just went home and didn't come back.
Yeah.
Now, Britain is caught now in that they will have to increase the wages and the conditions for their drivers. I've been watching some of that on Sky, and their conditions are absolutely deplorable. Literally living like hermits in those trucks and using the old style Primus stoves to heat in a kettle in the middle of the night while they're waiting for a ferry.
Yeah.
Anyway, our country is not that big. It's not too hard to get off the island. And we're also looking at a very positive story. We don't have it on our desks here yet. This tax-free 500 voucher for frontline staff in the Tribune. And apparently that's on the table. So the remote workers, well, we don't have any of those. A tax-free voucher is going to be 500 on top of an extra bank holiday. Which, are we getting that this year again?
What, the bank holiday?
Yeah, an extra bank holiday.
Well, they're talking about it, but they haven't just tied it down to a date yet. And so we'll wait and see.
The idea of an Irish Thanksgiving style holiday in November to match the Americans has been mooted, but whether that'll be...
There are lots of things being talked about and promised now in the lead up to the budget. It's hard to keep up with it all.
Very little of that's going to be delivered, because a week after budget day, well, you remember what it was about. This goes on. This current outbreak of promises came last Sunday week, when the Red Sea opinion poll put Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil were both behind Sinn Féin, who for the first time since the foundation of the state, they headed up an opinion poll, and things haven't settled down since, and they don't look like settling down anytime soon. But we'll go on to our own paper, what we're going to be looking at this week. We're going to be looking at a couple of stories right across the I think we have 36 pages again this week. We have a beautiful picture of twins Oren and Ivy Kelly. They're all decked out in the club colours, supporting their brother Keelan, who was playing for Tirconaill last Saturday evening. You took that one, Declan?
Yeah, that's it. They're son and daughter of Oisin Kelly of Highland Radio, and they were at the game watching Tirconaill playing St. Eunan's, so they're young 15-month-old twins, so nice picture.
Start them early.
Yeah.
Lovely picture there.
Lovely picture, yeah.
Later on, we're going to be looking at our headline story this week is in relation to the ophthalmic services based at the St. Connell's campus in Letterkenny, where I probably would have an invested interest because I'm a regular user of the service. So there are major concerns over the future of the service there, because frontline staff in the service are either moving on or leaving on promotion, and they're trying to fill that in. This is probably proven very, very difficult for the HSE, because we addressed this with them last week, but we'll come back to that later on. First of all, Eamon, we're going to do a story of an International Peace Award for Sister Kathleen.
Alright, this is on our front page today, and it's a piece about a Sister Kathleen McGarvey, who is originally from Falcarra. Sister Kathleen has done a great amount of work internationally in recent years, and she founded an organisation called the Women of Interfaith Council in Nigeria, and that was to promote an area that had been absolutely stricken with religious violence over the years between Muslim communities and Christian communities. And she has worked there for many, many years. She's, as I say, she's originally from Fakara, but she went on to become to study in Maynooth originally, and then later moved to Nigeria, where she served for a number of years in the Kaduna region.
So it's a very big honour for her.
It's a big honour because
Peace Award.
She after she established this, the thing has really taken a strong hold and proved very fruitful for establishing peace in that region. By all accounts, she's back now living in County Cork here, but the foundation that she set up continues over in Nigeria, and with a new.
I hadn't actually heard of that particular order previously.
Yes, she's Missionary Sisters of Our Lady of the Apostles, OLA, and that's where she is. She's the daughter of the late Annie and Joe McGarvey, Main Street, Falcarra, and she has obviously a well-known family, and still has plenty of siblings and relations in that. And
lovely picture over there.
Nice picture and a very deserved award.
Yeah, lovely.
The Etienne Peace Prize Award, which is quite an honour for her and the work she has done.
Anyway, if we're going to change direction entirely, we're going to Tirconaill, which we don't visit that often in the paper, and we're going to look at the history of the Tirconaill Football Club. Tirconaill 71, you researched and wrote that, Declan?
Yeah, I had done a big piece there with Joe McAteer, who I suppose is inextricably linked with Tirconaill 71 club that was formed in 1971. And they're celebrating 50 years this year in football, which is a remarkable achievement for a small rural club.
Well, I'm a wee bit compromised in that because for years and years I had a seat in the corporate boxes up at Drury Park, so I can't say too much. And plus he's my brother-in-law and his wife Peggy is my sister, so
yeah,
they ran the show effectively.
It all started in Brennan's Field on the Shore Road for a couple of years, and then it was up to Drury Park then for the guts of 30 years then, before they moved in 2011 to Rabs Park. But I mean,
yeah,
the Summer Cups, John, there were some spectacular nights there and some famous draws, and
a lot of the action took place after dark.
Without the floodlights.
They would have needed a fluorescent ball because you could not see it to take pictures. You just shot away in the dark, and then there was a draw declared. At times you kind of wondered, was it really a draw or was it just a crowd puller?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Their commercial department certainly seemed to be working overtime when it came to semi-finals and finals, and what teams might get through to the final that would draw a good crowd. So it was great crack, and it didn't just finish after the game either, down in Tirconaill.
But there's great pictures of those earlier days going back 50 years ago. Beautiful pictures.
Yeah.
Black and white pictures. I probably took a number of them myself.
You know, there's great history, and they kept a lot of pictures there, so we have a lot of them featuring in the paper.
Oh, they're beautiful.
I suppose I think it was one of the former players was telling me that the old shed down there, down at John Kerr's where they changed, there was a lot of memorabilia there for a number of years.
So there was, yeah.
So, and that's where it all started in terms of where the teams changed, and of course
it survived all the changes. I mean. Yeah. Just reading that fairly closely, one of John Joe's regrets was the fact that they weren't able to buy Brennan's Field, and £1,000 would have bought it back then.
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, you can think, if somebody mentioned £1,000 now, it would be just raised within an hour.
1971, and the
club
had just started. But John Joe was quite hopeful at that stage. But anyway, it didn't happen. And
how long did they play on Brennan's Field? Because they moved out of there.
Oh, 3 years. 3 years, and then they got Drury.
Houses were going to be built on it.
Yeah. Houses were built on it. So they moved on, and Drury was part of folklore in Donegal junior soccer between the league and the Summer Cups.
Well, Drury was one of those places you wouldn't want to be suffering from vertigo if you're playing on the pitch.
Yeah, you had the uphill and downhill. And
the game of two halves.
It had a very sharp slope. I don't know what degree the slope was.
But it came under the microscope of the Donegal League anyway in the mid-noughties, and they declared it.
But why would it come under the microscope at that point, given that, as John Joe says, they were there a lifetime, and the pitch hadn't changed? There hadn't been an earthquake reported locally around Drury Park.
We didn't hear
Was there a political dimension to that insofar as football is concerned?
We never got to the bottom of the reason for it anyway, but the league decided that it was going to be football no
No,
more.
but like, what did you think, or what did you hear happened? Why were they turfed out of it?
Really, it's very hard. I haven't really heard any good reason for it.
Because Drury was such a unique, it was one of the most unusual football grounds I ever visited. And I was a regular visitor to it during the summer cups, you see. They were part of the legend of Tirconaill because Tirconaill would be bustling back then.
That's right, you had them.
Packed with holidaymakers. You could find somebody playing that you never saw before and mightn't ever see again.
Well,
so some team might be short somebody and they were on holidays.
It's funny you might say that because we were looking at some of the team pictures and we struggled in a couple of them to get the names of one or two players, obviously, who just came in for the one or two games when they were there on holidays and that sort of stuff. But that was all part and parcel of summer football at that time.
But like, it was great crack. It was great fun, and nobody took it too seriously. And there was always a pint afterwards.
Oh yeah,
or two.
Yeah.
And then you had the legends. You had the likes of Charlie Bovril Collins.
Yeah.
Who could have become the freeman of Tirconaill if John Jewett got his way. Him and Bida came down on a very regular basis. Then the story of the night that Des Finneran, the Garda sergeant, he was the first community policeman in Donegal. He drove Charlie home 5 o'clock in the morning. Charlie wouldn't have been sober, and knowing Des, he wasn't a pioneer either, was he?
Not as far as I know, wasn't it?
So, like, those great cracks. Joe Duffy was there.
Yeah.
Cal Tolan.
And the two McCleary brothers.
Yeah, Mickey Hutton of Derry was another big name there.
Yeah.
Those days are gone forever. They won't be replicated because they were very innocent times.
Yeah. And I suppose it was when the junior leagues came along that it just no longer became viable to have summer cups and the leagues. It just ran its course towards the late 80s, early 90s.
But trying to hold a team together for 50 years in a small village like Tirconaill, because back then you had Fannin United, you had Fairn, who else had you? You had Sully Rovers up the road.
And you got more teams.
Other sporting codes as well.
You got more teams than then.
A whole lot more.
White Strand United are there, and you've more teams came in as it went on. But I mean, they were part of the first Donegal Junior League in 1971 when the competition started. They were one of the 14 teams, and they're still there 50 years later.
Yeah, and like,
there's a great loyalty to to Tirconaill and to John Joe and to the
Well, he was the local postman as well, you see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's been handed down now to his son-in-law Hughie Walsh.
And you just had to be kind of careful because Johnny Susan, his father, he was a top shot in the old IRA.
Yeah. So, as I say, Hughie Walsh is now the manager. He's been there, believe it or not, a decade now. John Joe was there for 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's only there only 10.
He's only there only 10, but he'll be there a while yet.
That's good. Fair play.
No, I love those old black and white pictures.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they breathe energy.
Yeah.
And they breathe history and into the whole dimension that is the
capture the time well.
71 club. So good luck to them for the next 50 years. But we'll move on, and we're staying in Tirconaill, believe it or not, down at Brendan Little's. He's a hard characterist. He focused on the BBC.
That was a thing that we just happened upon there. The headline is Brendan's Tirconaill Garden. It's just the tonic in troubling times. So Brendan is very passionate about the garden, and a beautiful courtyard garden that he has, and that featured on the BBC programme Gardener's Corner, for a popular radio programme. I think you're familiar with, John.
I'll listen to it. Yeah,
it's a nice, lovely programme presented by David Maxwell and David.
BBC on Radio Ulster.
Radio Ulster. And he came down. You can listen to it online as well. But David Maxwell came down and he met up with Brendan, and Brendan spoke about his recent sort of health problems, but he spoke very eloquently about that and how his garden, I suppose, in some ways, how he dealt with his garden during that time. And it's a great listen. And indeed, you can.
Brendan is one of the most professional gardeners around. He was a regular visitor to Kew Gardens and to all the big shows.
Yeah.
He worked across some of the big estates in Northern Ireland as well. And as I say, his gardening characteristics are well known right across this country.
But he had a lot of things to offer. He was on about the importance of not pushing your garden too hard. He was very open about that, saying that a certain amount of the garden had to kind of just return to nature while he was undergoing his
Yeah.
treatment and all of that. But he says the benefit being that once he let that certain parts of it return to nature, the wildlife came back, the bees came back, the hares came back, and all of that. So he's a lovely way of talking about that, with how you sort of juxtapose the two, the garden and that. So that's a nice wee story there, and worth a wee listen to. So
Our
that's
main
another
story this week is a major concern over future of ophthalmic services. We referenced this about maybe a month ago, and a problem has arisen at the ophthalmic services on the St Connell's campus at Letterkenny, where a number of the ophthalmic physicians have either been promoted or are leaving the service, and has caused major headaches. And we just referenced one particular case, and this is why we're doing the story, that once again Donegal people are going back to Sligo, elderly people, middle of the winter, no knowing how long they're going to spend in Sligo, because Sligo has a full schedule of surgical procedures to deal with on their own before Donegal people arrive, who are probably going to have to wait in the queue. And we had an instance of one medical card holder who was referred to Sligo by her GP, and that was fine, was advised that call into the campus in St Connell's. There was a locum there the following day, which she did, only to be told no, they're too busy. The schedule was totally filled up, but go on down to Sligo. Long story short, that woman waited in Sligo until 8:30 in the evening, when she was seen by a physician, to be told, we can't do anything for you. The labs are closed. You'll have to come back tomorrow and get your bloods analysed. And that, 2 days in a row for somebody under 80 is totally unacceptable.
Yes.
And it reflects the state, and the shocking state, of the HSE. And I'm just looking there, Declan, you reminded me we have a note somewhere in the paper where there are 21 consultants posts vacant at Letterkenny.
Yeah.
It doesn't mention they're looking to recruit a consultant ophthalmologist for Donegal. We don't have one. In the meantime, we had a visiting one from Sligo for a while.
Yeah.
But every politician across Donegal should be jumping up and down with anger and raising this in the dial and everywhere else, that we virtually had one of the most brilliant services at the St Connell's campus. I've been visiting that for 8 years, because I was diagnosed with glaucoma. And in all my visits there, I would have to say that the quality of the service and the staff was quite excellent.
Yeah, and the consultants there, I know myself personally that they
Yeah.
do a lot of work fundraising themselves, and the staff there.
Really?
Fundraising along with.
But back in the days, about 20 years ago,
keep that service there. Yeah.
if you were ever in the department, you would see the big photographs. Funds were raised to buy laser equipment, and they were able to carry out a number of laser procedures there. I had laser surgery done there to both eyes on 2 occasions, and I could have had I had surgery done for optic or for cataracts last year, and I had to have YAG surgery done then following that in Altnagelvin. But I realised I could also have had it done in the St Connell's campus. So people have a right to be very annoyed about this here.
Well, it's very worrying that it appears that a couple of the consultants were moving on to other, or the doctors there were moving on to other jobs, and it doesn't appear that that filling those posts, you really should have had moved on a good bit at this stage towards that, John.
See, apparently, well, the consultant ophthalmologist for the county, they're waiting for approval there. Now, the physicians, I don't know where they rate in the order of things here. I mean, they're effectively known to all of us as eye doctors, but they're a lot more than that. But all of a sudden, that service is now in serious, serious trouble. And regardless of who would attempt to come on and talk to us about that, the facts of the matter speak for themselves, that elderly people are facing a 15-hour, an all-day trip, all night, sitting there in Sligo, waiting to be seen and waiting to be seen. It's not that they're being ignored or anything like that, but they have to wait in a queue. And I mean, here we have this expensive equipment that we raised over €100,000 for. What's happening to that? And why is the service deteriorated? Are these all political decisions? I mean, what's going wrong here? We do need answers, and it's not so much from the HSE that we need them. We have our politicians there. I mean, this has been going on under the radar. I learned about this last June, and I've talked to politicians about it since then. But here we are today, highlighting it as a matter of major concern, and hopefully that it will be addressed. but I just can't say there's going to be, because we seem to have a problem getting consultants and getting positions into Letterkenny, and when they do come, a lot of the time they don't stay. But for the last 20 years we've had one of the best services in Ireland on the St Connor's campus. Sadly, it's gone to where it's now at. We're depending on locums to come in, and it's not that they're not doing a good job. They're overwhelmed with work, and that's not acceptable. Anyway, for our part, we're finished for today. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for listening.